Hey there, welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Brendan and I'm a functional patterns practitioner. I've been in this health game for quite a while, and my journey into this channel and sharing my story has been quite wild over the last 10 years. So I invite you to check it out if you haven't already. But let's dive into the top 5 iPhone health apps that you need in 2023, why I think these are important, why I use them for myself, and how it can benefit you in the long run. Because at the end of the day, it's all about trying to manage two things, okay? And this is from my perspective. We have your bank account. I like you to think of an analogy here. Your bank account right here, I am the bank account, okay? Not literally, I'm not gonna give you money, but you understand what I mean. I am the bank account, and right next to me here is an imaginary savings pot with really good rate of interest. The savings pot is your long-term health, and your bank account is your day-to-day, week-to-week health, let's say. This is what keeps the cash going through. This is where you spend some money, you make some money, and you put the money in and out, in and out, in and out. And then every month or every few weeks, you top up this savings account and it gives you a little bit of interest. These apps are helping you manage these two bank accounts. And I'm going to talk about why I think that's really relevant in 2023. I'm going to go descending order from 5 down to number 1, and I'm going to throw in a bonus one for you at the end so that you can kind of take it from there. Okay, so number 5 on my list is a scale app, a Bluetooth scale that connects to your phone that has an app. There are plenty of them on Amazon. I've got one, I can't remember how long I've had it now, for 3 or 4 years. I use it with my clients every single day. We weigh in, we measure, and I've got accounts set up for each of them. But equally, we've got a similar one just at the house. You don't need anything fancy. You don't need hundreds of pounds worth of scales, but what you do need is a baseline. If you're looking after your health, if you're looking after your fitness, I'm assuming you are because you're here watching this video. It's really important to understand that you just need a baseline to understand 3 things, in my opinion. You need to understand your body fat percentage, you need to understand your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, and you also need to try and understand your weight. You can throw in muscle mass for a good measure.
Just watch out for the guns. They'll get you.
And these scales, they're not going to be 100% accurate. They just give you a baseline. If you want accuracy, go to a sports testing center. But for the most part, the average person is only going to need something very simple to get them going, and this is a really good way of doing it. Now, what I'd say is, leading on to my app number 4 on the list, is make sure your health apps all integrate with Apple Health. Just as I'm editing this video, I've realized that I haven't mentioned this. I am not being paid by any of these app developers or manufacturers to promote any of their products. I've purchased all of these goods off my own back. That leads me on to the Apple Health app, which is my 4th app on the list of top apps to use. It's generic, it sits on your phone, and believe it or not, depending on the permissions that you've allowed it, it will track a whole bunch of information just using your phone. If you have a tracker like an Apple Watch or an Oura Ring or maybe a Fitbit or something else, and you link those data apps together, the Apple Watch Health app becomes your savings account. It becomes the account where you look at all the information over time, and you can use the generic apps that come with your said devices to kind of keep track of certain things day to day. If you've got the Scale app integrated with your health app, then you get a really good understanding over time the data that you're accumulating. Now, I love a bit of data. I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to it, but it also means that I'm in a position of authority on my own health so that I manage my bank account for my health and I manage my savings account for my health. So those 2 things, really, really cool. That leads me on to the Oura Ring app, or if you don't have an Oura Ring, the Pillow app, which I think is really, really cool. Now, the Pillow app is a bit of a faff to get going with. It has got a subscription, and there is a generic sleep tracking app with the Apple Health app. So if you don't want to spend any more money, you can always just use the Apple data. But the way that Oura and the way that Pillow present their information, I find is really beneficial. The thing that I like about it is that I can see a day-to-day snapshot of my resting heart rate, and I can see a day-to-day snapshot of my heart rate variability. Now, bear in mind, I am using an Oura Ring and I am using an Apple Watch for most of the time. However, if you don't have either of those, you're still going to get information plugged into that using your phone. The Pillow app has a very, very good way of collating information based on where your phone is located. So for example, with the Oura Ring, you have to wear it when you sleep. If you don't have an Oura Ring, but you have an iPhone and you don't have any other trackers, you can just simply put the phone, plug it in next to your bed, you can turn it onto airplane mode, and then you can manually start the pillow tracking app on your iPhone, and it will just sit there and it will listen to your movement, it will listen to your breathing, and it will listen to how you move throughout the night based on the gyroscope in your phone. And I think that's really quite cool, especially if you're just new to this and you're starting out. Now, why do I use all this information? Like, what's the point of this? The point of this is I had such big health problems in the last 10 years, like going from being really obese and overweight to being, kind of, well, moderately in shape now. And I think losing all that weight and changing my lifestyle, I became a little bit obsessed at one point of really hammering my body, really pushing myself as hard as I can. And if you go onto the internet and you see all these motivational gurus,
you must ask yourself, did I do enough?
And you see all these health influencers, it's all about train hard, push your body to its limits.
Stay hard.
Well, I did that. I followed all that advice and I got chronically hurt. I developed a chronic pelvic pain syndrome, which was all related to my rib cage, my left hip, and some of my mechanics. And that's what made me dive into human biomechanics in the end and get myself really in tune with how my body is, how my body works, how my physiology plays out based on some of the other metrics that I can gather. So it's all good and well to know what you weigh and what your body fat percentage is, but also understanding how much sleep and rest you're getting, and is your body really ready for the training that it would have. Historically, I looked back over some data, and when I wasn't really bothered about my sleep tracking, but I was training, I actually went 14 days in a row of training really, really hard. And then I had a health problem at the end of it. I kept getting sick. I ended up in hospital because of the chronic pelvic pain syndrome. I overtrained, I overdid it, and I hurt myself. And I don't want that for anybody else, which is why I say, can you track your sleep? Can you understand how good the quality of your sleep is? Because when you sleep and you rest, it's really important to help with your exertion levels, and we'll come on to that in just a second. So we'll talk about your bank balance and we'll talk about your savings account again in a second, but what I'd like to talk about is an app called Complete Anatomy. Now, I actually got interviewed by a panel on their company on improving this app, and it was a really informative discussion because what they'll tend to find is that it's medical practitioners that use this app for the most part. But being a human biomechanics practitioner, it's really interesting to use with my clients, but also for myself. The app gives you a snapshot of what the structure of the human body should look like, what muscles work, what their function is, and how you can leverage those muscles to get the most out of them. It also gives you some understanding of your digestive system, of your urogenital system, your skin, your fascia. It'll give you a whole bunch of information that you can learn. And I am a big believer in, if you don't understand your body, how can you expect to change your body?
You have your ubulus muscle that connects to the upper dorsimus. It's boring, but it's part of my life. I'm just gonna grab this shirt if you don't mind.
How can you expect to get the goals and achieve the things that you want to achieve? How can you be more intentional? Well, you can be more intentional by just spending some time learning about your body. And I think this is a fantastic app to use on your phone or on an Apple device. Really, really good tool. Okay, we're on to the final app, Athletic. I transitioned from Garmin over to Apple last year, and I have to say it was quite a difficult decision. Like Garmin's generic apps, if you've got a Garmin watch, the Garmin Connect app is fantastic, and it's equally as good as some of the apps I've mentioned here. But because I don't use it, I don't have any relevance for it right now. Athletic is like Garmin Snapshot, and then the Health app Snapshot, so that you can really understand your current account, your bank balance, not so much about your savings account at this stage. But what you'll understand about Athletic is it gives you relative exertion, it gives you some recovery, it gives you some data on what kind of exercise you should do for the day based on your sleep and based on your resting heart rate. And it also gives you a really cool snapshot of sleep debt. Okay, my sleep debt is up at the moment, and that's because our dog keeps waking us up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm really like struggling to get back to sleep. Now that's affecting my sleep scores. At the end of the day, if that's happening consistently over time, my savings account and my bank balance aren't going to look so great. So I will adjust my training accordingly to that. I'm not going to go and train for 5 hours. I'm not going to go run a half marathon if my bank balance and my savings account aren't topped up to the right level. I find the athletic app really, really helpful. And obviously, like I've said, you know, I've been on a bit of a journey with my health. I've been on a bit of a journey with all of this. And for me, it's been really, really important to kind of understand my metrics and where I'm at. A bonus app that I'd like to mention is the blood pressure monitor that I use every now and then. It is Bluetooth enabled, so it syncs to an app on the iPhone, and that iPhone data filters into the health app. The reason why I think this is quite important is because if you're gathering data on how much you weigh, if you're gathering data maybe on how much you eat through a fitness tracking tool like MyFitnessPal or one of the other apps out there, and if you're tracking your sleep and you're looking at your relative exertion levels, you can actually take that information and you can go to your doctor if you feel like something's wrong and say, hey, look at this information. Now, granted, not a lot of doctors will be up to speed on this. And I have to say in the UK particularly, when you only get a 10-minute slot to talk to a doctor, most of the time, if there's a problem, they're just gonna pop you on a prescription and send you on your way. And then you just have to keep topping that prescription up. As much as I hate to say this, it is a little bit like that. You become a bit of a drug user when it comes to getting into the system of doctor-patient care in this country, from my experience. And so having apps like this on your phone are a really good way of trying to manage your own health so that you don't need to go down that road. Or maybe you've noticed a problem with your heart rate variability and you've noticed a problem with chronic pain, and you can go, hey, why am I in chronic pain? Well, maybe it's because I'm tired all the time, and maybe it's because I'm not sleeping very well, and maybe it's because of X, Y, and Z. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna seek help from a health practitioner like myself or someone else who can give you some practical advice so that you don't have to go and get yourself into a doctor's surgery and get yourself on pills. Having said all of that, I think these apps will really help you. If you have any questions on it, pop a question down below and then I'll make a video on it. That's kind of how I'm working this channel at the moment. I'm trying to see what information people want. Equally, there's some cool stuff that I want to share with you that I use that I think is really helpful. And if you stick around for some more videos coming up on the channel, you'll also notice that there's going to be something cool launching soon, and I'm really excited to bring you along for the ride. So hopefully that's been helpful. I'll catch you in the next video. Stay strong and keep moving.